Says
Hello,
you are
everybody.
live. Hello, hello. And then we have the upside down pound cake in the top right corner there.
Apparently, we've been live for 1 minute and 12 seconds. I don't know how the hell that works.
No, just 13 seconds. But we are live.
Not on mine. It says live 1.20.
But keep in mind, if we're live 13 seconds, it usually means that we're only about 1 second for the viewer because of the delay.
Gotcha.
But we are live.
There's always a delay. But there's two people watching.
Well,
that's probably you and Ken watching me and
Jordan and Bonnie.
It's me and Ken. We're watching.
Holy
watching you, watching me, watching you.
There he is, Phil. What's going on, brother? How goes life at HD? Is he still working at HD?
Yeah, I think they got him playing with the wood.
Anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. It's fantastic that you guys are here.
It is. It's great.
In store for you tonight. Lots of conversation. We don't know what it is yet, but we guarantee it'll be
We have no idea. It's like we've got the little pinata in each of our rooms. We got a little stick. Phil's supplying the wood for that. And we're going to take a whack-a-mole at it and see what happens. Hey, Jill. Hey, Bleak. What's that?
Drills. We're full of drills and thrills tonight.
I think you forgot to send me the stick. I'll just punch the thing.
There you go.
It'll break.
Yeah.
You put enough force on anything and it breaks.
Has the cat destroyed anything yet for Christmas?
Not yet. Now, keep in mind, we didn't put any decorations on the tree other than the lights, just to make it less of a temptation.
Yeah, but they can still get a charge out of that.
Well, they can, but no, she's been good. She's been really, really good that way. She keeps Jill up all night, leaves me alone, so I'm liking this.
Well, just because she's in her kitten phase, just wanting to play, or she's biting?
I think so. And I think Jill's room is like on one side of the house where it's warm. My room's on the other side of the house where it's cold.
Yep.
So maybe the kitten doesn't like the cold.
Doesn't like the cold. Yeah.
That's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we had our we had our family Christmas up at the cottage this weekend, meaning our two kids and their significant others, and all the dogs and everything like that. And we have the cottage set at 17 and a half. And the way we warm up the kitchen area and living quarters that way is with the fireplace, the gas-fired fireplace, and then we keep the bedrooms ice cold.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like the best sleep.
Yeah, it is.
It's just incredible.
Well, I have a down-filled duvet, so it needs to be cold. Otherwise, I get too hot.
Yep. I can't. But I had to stay at and Wendy, I apologize if you're watching. That's my sister-in-law, with my mother-in-law for a week, and I slept in Wendy's bed, and I think she had one of those I'm not going to call it a felt or a thermal sort of bed cover. I didn't really get in the covers. I kind of slept on top between the covers. Holy Toledo, was it hot?
Oh, I imagine.
Don't like that. So what do we got going on? We have your background seems to suggest that we have had some probably not so shocking news from the United States today with their announcement.
Yes. Well, it's actually interesting. We had a couple things that happened this week. We had the CPI that came out yesterday. Now, the CPI was actually good. Both CPI as well as core came in better than expectations, which is fantastic, considering the fact that the expectations this time were already on the bullish side. So that was great, and it was setting up for a fantastic week. All we needed was the 50 basis points today, and we were almost guaranteed a Santa Claus rally. However, we did get our 50 basis points, but the Fed very, very much with the rest of their data, as well as the speech that Jay Powell gave, they were pretty hawkish. So it sounds like they're still going to be a little bit strict, because a lot of people were thinking that in February they drop to 25 and then go maybe another couple 25s. But it's kind of a little bit up in the air. It sounds like they still want to take the strong hand towards inflation. And that, of course, caused the market to go, well, down the drain. It was like a big drop. You know, and that was a great way, I guess. Maybe not a great day to end the day, but if you're looking for an entry waypoint or an entry point, well, it was there this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I've been seeing a whole bunch. There's not one thing or another thing that I can sort of sink my teeth into news wise. I've seen a couple of things. I've seen, you know, we'll talk about our government for a minute and what's going on with sort of the marriage, if you will, between the NDP and the Liberals. When Jasmeet and Justin made their courtship, did you think that this was going to last, or do you think that if the food was hotter at a different buffet, that Jasmeet would probably jump ship?
No, I actually think it'll last, and I'll tell you why. I don't think Jasmeet plans to run again. I think this is the end, and he wants to go out with a legacy. He wants to be like a Tommy Douglas with the whole dental care, because once he's gotten this through by maintaining this relationship all the way to the end, he can basically say, look, that's my contribution to Canada. I gave you guys dental care. I should be celebrated like Tommy Douglas. And, you know, I think that's his end game. So I think this is going to hold. I don't think we're going to see an election before 2025. The only way we will is if Trudeau decides to do something stupid, which, let's face it, he sometimes does, and calls an election early because he thinks he has a chance of winning.
Like he did last time.
And I think he learned last time that he just wasted a whole bunch of taxpayers' money, put a whole bunch of people in situations where they could be exposed to COVID. I mean, you know, it was basically a giant cluster banana bread, you know, thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a more harsh word for that, but I'm not going to say it.
No, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, he had a chance, but
I'd seen a blurb today in the news. I don't know if it was on News Talk or CP24. It was just a quick shot across there. I don't know if there's their Instagram page or their Twitter page or whatever the case was, about how Jasmeet said, you know, if they don't start getting the ball rolling on this plan, this national plan, that he's going to seriously consider their arrangement. And I thought, here we go. And that's why I brought it up. It's like, here we go. This if he doesn't get what he wants, you know, he's threatening. And it's like,
well, he's posturing.
Of course he's posturing, but
you know, and he needs to, because if he doesn't, the Liberals are going to give him the bare minimum, and he's not going to achieve everything he wants. So he has to posture. You know, it's a dance. I think both him and Trudeau know it's a dance, and a lot of it is just for public show. But that deal, I think, is going to hold through till the next election. When Poilievre calls it a coalition, he's not far off the mark. It's not an official coalition, but it sure is darn close.
Well, it's just like we're not in a recession.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's you know, do we consider that, you know, it's just how much more money are we as taxpayers going to be accountable for subsidizing to make up if it goes to 2025? The problem with that is that whatever mess is created now is just getting kicked down the road, and the new government's got to pick it up no matter what they promise in their campaign, and no matter what they campaign on. It is a vicious circle. And I'll be honest with you, you know, it's Monopoly, where they can just continue to open a new pack of money and throw it into the game of Monopoly and keep the game going forever, which is basically what's going on. But at what point, I mean, where do we start to, as the classes, lower class, middle class, don't really have anything to say about the upper class because they're just fine, right? Where do we start to breathe? Because I'm just looking at taxes, especially, you know, that we're paying, and we have to pay here and there and everywhere, and and I have to pay tax for my Airbnb. And I get that it's a privilege to have an Airbnb and a rental income and stuff like that. but it's not as lucrative as one would think that, oh, they've got money and they're making money on their rental and stuff like that. Not really, because I have to pay, Airbnb. I have to pay the Bruce Peninsula government 4% of everything, because that's their short-term rental taxation. They want 4% of everything I make. You know what I mean? So it's everywhere you turn around, you're paying someone for something.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the reality is we're in a society now where if you just have a single job, you go do it, you come home, you're not going to have breathing space at all, because they're taxing you to death. Everything is costing you to death. You're being inflationed to death. The only thing you can really do is try to, get yourself a side hustle, find some extra income to create your own little breathing pocket. That's kind of the way it is. And I don't see it getting any better, because as you said, once we get another government, they're going to be left with the massive hole that we're in. And even if you make things more fiscally responsible, we still have that hole. So to be fiscally responsible, you pay off the hole. That's just the way it has to go.
And we should clarify that it's governments, federal, provincial, municipal.
Oh, yeah.
Because it just falls right down the chute. And here we are at the bottom going, oh, I got the dustpan and the broom. I'll sweep it up and I'll take care of that for you.
There's been talk as well as world government and world taxes. So,
For what?
Well, there's just been talk. Now, this was all before the pandemic. So I think everything's right now isn't too much chaos for that to happen. But there have been whispers of different things, like a world tax and a world basic tax rate. And there's a few things percolating in some people's minds. But right now, I think the world is so out of whack between that, and you've got Russia and the Ukraine issue. And now you've got the U.S. going to send a Patriot missile system to Ukraine. I'm like, holy banana bread! That's as close as you can get into war, pretty much, between Russia and the U.S.
Yeah. I had not heard that.
Yeah, no, this is in the news. And a Russian general yesterday actually came out and said, we're in a situation where the NATO bloc that's happening within Ukraine, the only way we're going to resolve it is with nuclear weapons. So that was a top general that said that yesterday. So, just go figure. I'm at that point where I'm thinking like, I love that we're trying to help Ukraine, but we got to really, really watch how far we push that, because we don't want.
But you got to look at the point of view from the countries. War is a business, especially in the United States, right? So the longer that they can get their puppet to keep playing against Russia, the more war propaganda and war money is coming into the government, right?
Right. But keep in mind too, though, as soon as that war spills outside of that current conflict, there's going to be a lot more losers than there will be people winning.
That's true, but a lot of people in the world of business don't care.
That's true.
As long as their pockets be in line, they don't care. They don't care who they're stepping over to make that buck, right? We've seen it, Desert Storm. We've seen it with the Afghani war. We've seen it, right? And it has unfortunately been all U.S. driven.
Yeah.
So maybe the U.S. is just, that's why they're helping. They're like, we're waiting for the spill.
Yeah. No, I can understand. I can understand the business of war.
It's insane.
But there has to be some lines, because when you get to a point that you've got a nuclear power that is rattling their nuclear saber more and more, you don't want that to go from a rattling to a maybe we will launch a few, because that's when it starts to get uncontainable.
Right.
And then it doesn't matter how well you lined your pockets. If it ends up that we end up in a full-scale nuclear war, you've lost too.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I think, as you said, Candace, I think what's going to happen is that it's not going to be like what we think of as a nuclear war. I don't think, where you're going after all this country and that country. It's just going to be sort of
Mhm.
self-directed into specific parts of perhaps the Ukraine, or perhaps parts of another country, maybe even parts of the U.S. I mean, if they fire on the U.S., I think all bets are off, and there's going to be a
Mhm.
whole that'll be really, really
Well,
freaking
here's another
scary.
thing too that you may not have heard of. Russia came out last week and said they want to change their nuclear gameplay, because their gameplay has always been that they will not initiate a first strike. They will only retaliate. They want to change that to be able to use strategic options of nuclear weapons. So,
Low grade, right?
well, they said strategic. Strategic tend to be low grade. Like if you're using a tactical nuke, it's not as powerful as, say, something that was dropped on Hiroshima. It's a little bit less than that. So it's basically just designed to take out a single little city with not as much fallout.
Mhm.
You know, see, it's more or less like these are the ones that you would drop on. You wouldn't even really drop it on a city. It would be more or less you drop it on troops.
Right, but then that leaves that land unusable for X amount of years.
Yes, it does. And then you still do have fallout.
Right.
You know, and the danger with using like even tactical nukes is you want to make sure that those winds are still blowing your way so that the fallout comes at you. Because if fallout falls on a NATO territory, that's a whole kettle of fish right there. Because that NATO member can, they can declare an Article 5 for nuclear fallout falling on their land. Yeah, it's a mess.
Did I hear that the Ukraine was entertaining the fact of becoming part of NATO
Oh yeah, they wanted to become
recently?
part of. They've wanted to join NATO. NATO has said no, and then when the war started, they were like, "Let us in, let us in," because that would have hopefully got Russia to back off right away. But and that was one of those things too that Russia does not want Ukraine to become part of NATO, and that's if there's ever going to be peace, there'd have to be an agreement that Ukraine would never join NATO. And also, Russia's not going to give up some of the lands that they've taken, like Crimea. They're not going to give that up. Anything that they have said they've officially annexed, they're not going to give that up. So there's going to have to be, and that's kind of the whole thing. Like I think Ukraine right now is like, no, we're taking all of our land back, and Russia's like, no, there's absolutely no negotiation on that. So that's one of the reasons that this has the potential to go a very long time.
Well, I'm sure before nuclear would happen, I think the hackers would step in and the Russian hackers would be hacking the US going, look what we can do. Are you sure you want to touch your nukes?
Yeah,
Because
or not even so much the hackers.
right?
There's always the chance that you could have a situation within Russia where some of the oligarchy, they step up and they're like, no, we're not letting it happen. Almost like a coup within Russia.
You think they're strong enough?
Well, I think they are.
They are. They're that's Russia's money right there.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of different things that can happen. I think that the only way Russia could get into nukes is it would almost have to be something that happened in a split second, opposed to, because if word even gets out amongst the oligarchy or some of the top generals, there could be people basically saying, no, we're not doing this.
Well, even if it does happen, they can still, the recourse is still that they once, he's not going to go and he'll get no forgiveness of it. They'll just go after him if if he does it surprise and just a knee-jerk reaction, right? I do hope they go back and they just say, you're done. You're absolutely done. But who are they going to put in place? I mean, it's a different society.
Yeah.
And we got to let them. We got to let them do what they want to do over there. Just keep it.
And that's one of the possibilities too. If Russia were to drop some tactical nukes on the Ukraine, I think initially NATO is not going to do anything. They're going to basically sit back, throw more sanctions, and see if we do get this uprising that we think is possible within Russia, just to prevent this from going any further. If that happens, then that will settle it. Nothing will get escalated beyond that. If that doesn't happen, that's when we've got, that's when I think the entire world will feel like they're walking on eggshells for a bit.
It worries me because, if there's going to be tactical this or any sabotage, or Ken, as you alluded to, it could go on cyber, could go on the internet. But, as we start to ramp, I think we are starting to ramp back up and having another serious look-see at an alternative to nuclear power. What the hell if they go after those? You know what I mean? I understand that the Bruce nuclear plant has ex-military people on there, and they got guns, they're armed, they're on land, okay. By air, they're pooched. They're absolutely pooched by air.
Yeah, well, that's the whole
Same
thing.
as Darlington down in Oshawa.
That's the whole thing. Now, luckily, and this is a new thing that came out yesterday, they've successfully pulled off a fusion reaction.
So what is that? What exactly does that mean?
So, okay, what a fusion reaction is did you ever see Spider-Man 2? Doc Ock was trying to create a fusion reaction, the power of the sun in the palm of my hand. Basically, what you're doing is you're by high speed running hydrogens into each other, trying to get them to fuse. You get things like deuterium. You might even get some helium. And that produces an insane amount of heat when that happens. That heat then boils water, which turns turbines, creating energy. They have finally got it where the amount of energy it's taking them to do this is less than the amount of energy it's generating. So you basically have a system that is, it's above net zero. You're getting surplus energy just from running the system. So, and that's the whole thing. To create these type of reactors, you'll basically have very cheap energy. It's clean, it's renewable. It doesn't have all of the same, it has some, like you will get some isotopes out of it that have a little bit of radioactivity on them, but they have insanely short half-lives. Unlike a fission reaction, which is what the nuclear power plants that we have now, they produce things that we have to bury, deep underground for, maybe 10,000 years. This case here, nothing like that. So they're clean. You could hit them with missiles and there's not much of a concern, just not that you should be hitting them with missiles, but it's a brand new source of energy. And what it's going to do is it's going to replace oil in the future. Now, keep in mind, we're still we've just made it happen finally, because people have been trying to make it happen now for decades and decades. So you're still looking at 20, 30 years before you're going to see these things actually in the form of power plants. But at that point, you won't need oil anymore, because this is going to be cheap energy, renewable, safe. It's a massive, I don't think people quite understand the scale of this invention, of fusion becoming a reality. It will change the world, completely change the world.
So what about the hydrogen? Is that just another source? That's
it's everywhere. Huh? Hydrogen is everywhere. It's the most plentiful element in the entire universe. You can get it from the air.
Well, and this is interesting how we're talking about, the different types of energy and stuff like that. It leads us into the whole explosion, if you will, of the batteries and the demand that it's going to put on for, I think, electric vehicles. It's just, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. By 2030, it's what, 50. It's estimated that 54% of the vehicles on the road are going to be electric, which leads me, when you're saying you've got to have, hundreds and thousands of feet underground, I'm exaggerating, but bury the nuclear, take care of it. It's got to, dissipate, do whatever voodoo it does. But we got the same problem with batteries. Like it's all fine and dandy to solve one problem with emissions and getting away from fossil fuels and stuff like that. But are we not creating another problem with the disposal of the batteries? How many of them are actually going to be able to be recycled and reused? And what happens to all of them when they burn up or they crash or whatever?
It's like plastic. Plastic made our lives easier and cheaper to do stuff. And now look at the issue that we're having with plastic. Right? You're going to drive a battery-driven vehicle, which is helping the environment, so they say. But then, like you're saying, end of life for the battery. What the hell do you do with it then, right?
Well,
And
this is
how do you put out a fire? How do you put a fire out on an electric vehicle?
well,
You shoot it with water and get zapped?
Well, no, it's foam. It's different chemicals, but then you're creating different chemicals for it too. I mean, they don't kid yourself. The apparatus on the fire department are equipped for electrical fires. That's not the issue. What the issue is that we have these EVs, and if we're going to have 50, in North America, 54% or whatever the hell the number was by, I think it was 2030, and the battery life is 5 years, maybe. What the hell is going to happen to these batteries if they cannot be reused? You can only, I mean, it Ken, it goes to your point. It's like, it was great that we could, have plastic and all this and that. But then all of a sudden, it's like we can't put that in with normal garbage because it's buggering up the normal decomposition process of everything. So now in comes the recycling program, right?
Mm-hmm.
Too little, too late. It's in place. Is it really working? Are people actually habitually used to separating everything with their garbage? Well, now you bring in batteries, and it was like when I did that rant on that stupid cord or whatever it was. Remember, I said, it's so tiny, I'm just going to throw it in the garbage, right? It's like, what are people throwing in the garbage anyway? I mean, they're not going to put a car battery in, but do you honestly think that everything that we have that is got a little AAA, AA, or whatever, people are actually separating that and taking it to a landfill properly, or to a Staples or whatever?
Maybe 10%, maybe. 10%.
Maybe that's
maybe.
extremely high.
Maybe
that's extremely high because it's a matter of convenience.
Right. But think about the car batteries too. What's the cost to replace one? The cost to replace your batteries in these electric vehicles is the cost of a brand new, smaller vehicle right now. It's about 30 grand.
Yeah, I don't know.
So you're going to spend 60 grand on a vehicle, and 30 grand of it is battery. And then in 5 years, you got a choice. Either you wheel and deal that vehicle to get another one, or you cough up, 30 grand for new batteries.
I don't know.
There was somebody that did the mathematics, and the cost allowed the person to get, oh God, I can't remember how many liters of fuel, but it was insane that driving a gasoline engine vehicle is cheaper than running electric in the long run with repairs and replacements.
Yep. Well, it's interesting. It's just, it's interesting to see that the things that are created and invented to take care of a problem create a problem.
It's because there's no cure. There's just Band-Aids. The only cure is if we just stop. We have to stop. That's the only cure.
We're not going to stop.
We're not going to stop because we're humans and we evolve, right?
Well, and that's the same thing.
Part of our evolution is technology, right? And electric vehicles is part of our evolution. Look at Star Wars and Star Trek, right?
But it's not part of my evolution. It's what the government is telling me is the evolution.
Right.
They're the ones that are, California is the ones that's mandating all of these things. I think they're probably one of the toughest states in the U.S. saying by this date, as I say, it's a known fact that friends of ours, he's with Mack Truck, and that he's having a hell of a time because the trucks are now going to electric. I look, Tesla's got the trucks already designed to go out and stuff like that.
They've had electric trucks in Europe for years now.
Sure.
But you gotta think of it though. California resides beside an ocean, so they have to do whatever they can to protect that waterway. And if this is part of it, then this is part of it, right? Although I think being in British Columbia would be worse because you have salt, you have snow, you have oil that goes into the salt and the snow, and that does end up into the waterways, right? So,
well, what about the East Coast? From Maine all the way down to Philadelphia or to
they haven't got that far yet. They haven't got that far yet.
What the frick are you talking
The
about?
pretty seals are on the other side. There's
Oh
nothing pretty
my
on the
God,
other.
pretty seals. Jesus.
Come on, pick up the phone, call Greta. Let's get this debunked now.
Oh, I don't know. I just, it's like, in the old days, you'd say, oh, I'm going to hide my money down in the Cayman Islands and I'm going to do this and that. And, there were options, there's not many options to get away from all of this stuff, all this silliness that's going on, the EVs, the taxes, the this and that, and still have a reasonable life. I mean, where do you escape all of this? You don't. I think we're caught in it no matter what country you would ever think about going to.
Well, taxes pretty much are everywhere.
Correct.
Right, but with 100,000 Canadian, you can live like a king in certain places in the earth.
Oh, Indonesia,
Mhm.
Jakarta.
You can
I
live
have
like
a friend of ours who's down there, and I had a client who went down every year. He was retired, and he said on $1,000 he lived like a king.
Yeah.
He was single, and he probably didn't, but $1,000, it's like, wow. But you're sacrificing stuff. You're sacrificing what you're used to, and what you're leaving is not what you're going to get when you're down there.
Right,
Healthcare,
Clean water,
potentially, all that stuff. So it's give and take, and it's just it's a vicious circle, and we're caught.
Mhm.
We're caught, and I don't know about you, but I start to feel a little bit more controlled and trapped as I get older and as I get more wiser, and the more I sort of read articles and get educated on stuff. I feel I it's not a nice feeling.
Well,
I don't know about you guys. It really is. I've been thinking about it more lately, and it's like I've never thought that way in my life. And
well, it's like the
now
government. The government's not doing what's in our best interest. They're doing what's in their best interest, because it is a country, and a country should be ran like a business. But it's killing us. It's pushing us so low into poverty. It's not. It's insane.
Well, what it's doing is it's a machine that, in a roundabout way, is regenerating votes to get the government voted back in. If you really think about it in that way, I'm sure there's other ways and other explanations for it. But if you really want to go down that path, we have to let people into the country. We have to go against all of our agreements and our promises to leave the green belt alone and not develop it. Now, what are they doing? They're giving, certain mayors and certain municipalities in Ontario the right to override the council and go and do what they want to do for development. That's dictatorship.
Mm-hmm. Somebody's pockets are getting lined. See?
I don't like it.
Well, I mean, it's not just somebody. It's like every single level of government, all the way up, they're lining their pockets to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
And the higher up you go, the more coin they're taking.
Yeah, the bigger chunk.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like we really aren't heard. They're our friends when they need us, and other than that, it's like let it go to voicemail. To say, it's just it's lip service. It's they never ever I mean, look at that inquiry. That inquiry, in my opinion, for the convoy, when they brought up Trudeau and they brought up Freeland and they brought up, I forget who else they did. That was embarrassing that those people at that level couldn't answer the question and had no idea of what was going on, or no,
Yeah. Well, I mean, just listen to any press conference, and half the times they don't answer any of the questions being asked.
No.
I know, and you know what the silly thing is that, and I don't mean to disrespect anyone or make fun of anyone, but people stay glued to the effing TV and they continue to watch this bullshit every single night. That's why I don't watch news. It's like you watch the politicians or you watch this, and it's like, this is the stupidest act I have ever seen.
Mhm.
And it's live with commercials. People are paying to watch this, and it's like, you can't even trust the weatherman.
No. Although he's a little bit better than he used to be.
Well,
Yeah, but the weatherman's playing probability, so there's a probable.
his comments are seasonal.
Very true. Very true. But no, the politicians, it's like, it doesn't matter what you ask them. They will sometimes just answer completely different questions
Yes.
that have nothing to do with the question that they were asked.
And most people just sit there and go, "Well, thank you for your response." And it's like, are you off your
Well, not anymore. If
ever-loving
you
rocker?
listen now, the reporters, they're like, they will re-ask the question over and over again, trying to get the answer. And then it's basically, they're asking about A and the politician's answering B every single time.
Yep. Yep.
It's just
And it's
ridiculous.
like, there was a female. Oh, I follow her on Instagram. A female PC at the federal level, and she challenged the Liberal government on something. She got kicked out of the House of Commons. And
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
can't
she's
remember her name.
she's from out west, eh?
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
And she's a little bit of a firecracker. I think her name's Rachel. I don't know. And it's like, I don't recall people getting kicked out for asking questions that is their right to ask questions on our behalf.
That's what it's supposed to be about, right?
And they shut them down. And it's like, you're not going to answer that. And it's like, even that's messed up.
Isn't that why they call it question period? All of a sudden, you're not allowed to ask a question.
Exactly. No, it's called question period. It's not called answer period, though.
Well, that's true, right? That's part two. They still need to develop that. That'll take another $100 million to get that solved, by the way. And we're going to pay for
Notley. There it is. Rachel Notley. Yeah.
There we go.
She, I kind of like them. And I mean, you know what? I'm seeing that, and maybe it's me, I don't know. But the females are charging more and asking more of the questions that need to be asked than the males in the House of Commons these days. What's with that? Why can't they just all ask the same question? Is it still a good old boys club? And that in itself is disgusting.
That's what I was gonna say. It used to be a good old boys club, right? And now you're getting force from the side, right? And it seems like every politician in Canada that would actually seem to be a really good politician of power is getting curbed every single time, And
yeah.
Well, it goes back to Candace saying, Jasmeet wants a legacy. He wants this healthcare and stuff to go out. He's not doing much other than he's made this deal, and he's probably one of the smarter guys because he doesn't really have to do dick. He's not going to renew. Look at the Ontario NDP. No one wanted to run, so she was acclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what was there, 6 or 7 spots on Toronto City Council this go around that no one wanted to run for, so they were just acclaimed. People don't want to be in politics anymore. I don't blame them. I mean, as you know, I had sorry, it's the dog jumping around here. As you know, I had some exposure to the political system at the municipal level.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. If you listen to the House of Commons now, every single Liberal answer to every question usually has this in it. And Mr. Poilievre told Canadians to buy Bitcoin last year, and they would have lost half of their money now if they had listened to him. Like, that's what they say. Every single one. And it's like, that's not even part of what the question was. But they bring that up in every single one, Mind you, the Conservatives have their triple thing. Like, anytime they have to say triple, they go triple the taxes. So it's kind of a game.
Can't say that anymore. Yeah. It's just ridiculousness. It's just absolutely ridiculousness. I mean, there was something that came across. CP24 is the 24-hour sort of. It recycles the news every 20 minutes or whatever it is, and it's like your CNN and your ticker thing, this and that. And there was something on there a couple of nights ago when I was over at the mother-in-law's, and it says, you know what, we're not out of this, and tourism and all this and that isn't going to return, and the economy is really not going to return until 2025. You think about that date of 2025. That's when we've had the elections in the States flush through. We've had other things. We've had our election flush through. You know what I mean? And that's when you think about it, and it's like, okay, that makes sense, because up until then, it's just, you know, are the banks, just by playing with their games with their interest rates and stuff, just playing around with us and the recession, when someone could just stop doing what they're doing and just let this flush and get this recession on the road, and let's get rocking and rolling with it.
But here's the funny thing. The timing wise, if you look at this election in 2025, by the time that happens, we should have seen this recession come, and it should be on its way out. And I guarantee you the liberals in that campaign will be saying that they're the party that beat the recession.
Yep.
And that'll be one of their big drum beats that they'll be going on as they're campaigning.
When it was going to flush the way it was going to flush anyway, right?
Right, because it's a natural cycle.
Correct.
But they will take full credit for it, even though technically you could say they actually helped bring it with the, you know, with all of the spending they did at the beginning of the pandemic.
Well, I think most countries kind of brought it on.
Well, the world did. I mean, it's not their fault. They had to do it. Like, I don't want to say that they shouldn't have spent anything and they shouldn't have helped people. They had to.
They should manage it.
They needed to manage it better.
Yeah, manage the repayment better.
Yeah, like,
because this is just killing us.
But did we not learn from the Big Short and back when, you know, they had the subprime and stuff, that did we not get a taste of that, where the U.S. went to the aid of all those people, and they were too big to fail, and they just gave them billions of dollars and just bailed them out? Nothing happened, except that all the executives still got their big bonuses.
Yeah.
And it's I still remember that when Trump and I might botch this, but let me use it as an example. And it's an example that the information may be incorrect, but it's an example. You know, that Trump had borrowed so much money for his development in Atlantic City, and that the banks, when he went back and he kept going back, it's like a drug dealer going back for more juice. You know, it's like, you know, it's just, they're never going to get off that loop. He kept going back to the banks, and the banks kept lending him money because he was into them for so much that they had to keep funding him to make it successful, so that he paid something back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just in response to what Jill was saying there about the recession, I mean, the way I see it all happening is I see before the summer that they'll officially finally call a recession or acknowledge a recession. The recession itself, by the time we get to the end this time next year, the recession is going to be on its way out, but you know, it may last about halfway into 2024. Mm-hmm. But bear market wise, the bear market should probably be starting by the end of next year. So, because you normally get the bear market before the recession is done, because that's what piles you out of the recession.
So good point.
Or sorry, bull market, not bear market. The bull market will be starting.
Market, right.
I was like, it's going to get worse.
Like double bear, yeah. This time it's personal. Bear market too.
When do we see the interest rates start to come down? End of 2023, 2024?
Well, it really depends. Probably that's not a bad idea. It really comes down to how fast inflation gets under control. Because if they still have to continue to pump rates a little bit through the year, you may not actually see a rate cut until either the end of next year, or early into 2024, when they start to bring some rates down. But keep in mind, and this is the thing too, when they cut the rates, like, so today when the U.S. Fed did the 50 basis points, when they added that to the rate, the full effect of that, it takes a while for it to actually filter into the system and for us to actually see whether it's worked or not. So that's going to be the situation. By the time they get inflation down to that 2%, there's still going to be a whole bunch more of it working into the system. And that's when they're going to start being like, okay, we're probably going to have to maybe cut the rates a little bit because we went too far, because chances are they will go too far.
But we haven't seen interest rates that we were accustomed to a year or two years ago. We haven't seen interest rates like that in a long, long, long time. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to use in this example is I'm going to use the example of the price of gas, where they got it up to $2.30 blew us right out of the water, got us all up in arms, and it was market desensitization where now they start to bring it back, and it's like, oh, thank you, even though it's still not the right price. But because they went way off into outer space with the price initially, kept our head underwater at that price for so long that we got used to it, that when we actually came down 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 cents to something that still is too expensive, we go, oh my God, now it's back to almost normal prices. No, it's not.
There is that.
Do you see that happening with the interest rates at the end of 2023, 2024?
Well,
do you ever see them returning to those levels of 0.5%, 1%?
Here's the thing to keep in mind. They, at the beginning of the issue, they were saying that this was all transitory. They weren't 100% wrong, because some of the inflation is coming from supply chain issues and some of the world events that are occurring. So that aspect is transitory. So a little bit of it is going to go away. And the problem is, while we're adjusting and the transitory aspect of it is still happening, that's how we're going to overshoot. And that's why, the sooner that, now, if that transitory goes away, and I saw Jill saying something about cutting rates by May, that could happen, sure. But, we'll have to sort of watch and see how that happens. Now, some of the transitory, like the supply chains, are already much better than they were before. We don't have the backup of ships that we had before. And by March, they're expecting all of the ports to be running just the way they used to run. So that's really good. And that transitory aspect of inflation, when that goes away, if we're at the point that we've already overhiked, then absolutely you're going to see some cuts start coming in, and people will be rejoicing because, it will be pretty good for the economy. And it will also, and this is why I think the governments are thinking, well, maybe we won't get a recession, because they're thinking that when the transitory aspect is gone, and they're already over, interest rates are already too high, and they're going to have to start cutting, and that's going to stimulate the economies. Maybe that will sort of counteract the recession. I mean, I still don't think it will, but I think the governments are kind of thinking that it might. So that's kind of where that thinking. So when you hear people like government saying, oh, there's not going to be a recession, we think we got it under control, that's kind of what they're taking into their consideration when they're thinking that.
Are you seeing any difference at your work, Ken, with, whether it be staffing, whether it be acquisition of new companies? Because I know you had mentioned that I believe your company was looking at a place in Brantford and Hamilton and stuff like that. Are you seeing any effect in your industry?
No, in fact, they just bought a major company in Ottawa. They just announced that on Friday at the Christmas party. They're nonstop right now. That they want all of Ontario. So I'm not seeing any issues with construction. I'm still servicing a lot of toilets where they're laying the sewer pipes and doing the paving, and I'm not seeing any slowdown in this industry from what I'm seeing. So we've got 4 new vehicles coming. One's going to me, 2's going to London, 1's going to Thamesville. I don't know how much they have, but they have a lot, and they're going to the wall with it.
On a side note, when you've got a porta potty that's 8 floors up, who empties that?
They crane it down to us.
They crane the poop down to you, or they crane the whole toilet down to you?
The whole toilet. They crane the whole thing down to us.
Come on.
And then they crane it back up. Yeah.
They don't do that in high wind, do they?
It's up to the crane operator. Well, they have a guy on the ground holding a rope to steady it.
That's what I want to be, holding a rope under.
Yeah, but it would be the same thing if you're lifting up steel beams. You got people underneath keeping it tight to make sure it's.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. There was a funny one, actually. They had one of the plants. They put one of our trailers way up at the top of the plant. And we had no problem getting a hose up there to suck them out, but we couldn't get enough pressure to push the water back up to refill it.
Oh.
They had to go up the stairs with buckets of water. It was funny because they wouldn't crane it. They wouldn't crane that trailer down. It was kind of absurd, but they didn't want the they didn't want workers taking an extra 10 minutes to walk all the way downstairs to use the bathroom.
Have you got the Bruce?
Hmm?
Do you service the Bruce?
No.
I don't know what the Bruce is.
Bruce Nuclear.
Oh,
Not
okay.
yet. Not yet.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. And the next thing is this FTX guy, this dude finally got arrested.
He
You know.
is. He is.
And what are they going to do? What, like the
He-
money's gone by the way of the dodo bird, no?
I don't
He
think
was
there's much they
he
can
was
do.
actually going to turn himself in with some very interesting information, and they arrested him instead.
Well, okay. So I had a bit of a business discussion with Nancy about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, both of his parents are in, they're lawyers, and what do they do for a living? They're not compliance. They're in, I guess they're in compliance, right?
Okay.
That's their area of business or something like that. But and I said, this smells like a rat in the house that, your parents know better, and yet you still can bamboozle billions of dollars out of people. Something
But he
doesn't smell right.
He wasn't running though. He was in the Bahamas. If he was going to run, he'd go to China. Right? You can disappear a lot quicker in Asia than you can on the beaches in the Bahamas. So
What's the purpose of arresting this guy? Because I mean, look at all the celebrities. Brady is disengaging himself,
Snoop's in trouble.
erasing his tweets so that there's no allegedly erasing his tweets and stuff so that there's no trail of him, because he doesn't want to get dragged into this lawsuit. You think about all the people, like, I mean, even O'Leary was dancing around it a bit,
Here's one.
Yeah.
Here's one for you to think. And Nay brought this up this morning on his show. It's about Elon. And he thinks that Elon had a lot more money in FTX than he was saying, because now Elon's saying for Twitter not to pay for this, don't be paying your rents. Elon is acting like bankruptcy's coming for Twitter.
For Twitter.
Because he's telling them not to pay the rents on the office buildings, not to pay this, not to pay that. And it's normal bankruptcy stuff that companies do not pay before they go bankrupt.
But Elon plays that game anyway.
Right.
He tried to stymie this deal. He goes in and he fires people on the executive. He goes in and says, this is what you're going to do and how you're going to work, and your salary isn't going to reflect it, or it's the highway. Elon, when we had Chris Dancy on last week, which was a pretty darn good show, I was surprised what Elon actually has his hand in. He's got his hand in a lot more than what we realized he's got his hand in, with health, implants, with what was it? What was it? The GP? What was that thing that we were the chat thing?
Well, here's the funny thing. So Chat GPT, and I'll just throw this quick tangent at you. I was doing my video for tomorrow, and I was like, I have to parse together all this history of TELUS. So I just went into the Chat GPT and I said, tell me the history of TELUS. And it gave me this nice, elegant paragraph. And I'm like, that's good. I think I'm going to use that. So part of my script tomorrow was written by Chat GPT.
But where do we fact check this stuff from Chat GPT?
Well, I had already I'd already been looking through the history, and I was just like, oh, this is a mess of history. How can I boil this down to something simple? And that's when Chat GPT came in.
Is that the one you sent me in a private message as well, or was that another platform?
No, I don't think I sent that to you in a private message. Somebody else might have.
I thought it was you.
But that was the one where Chris was trying to show it last week and it wasn't working.
That's right.
Now, let me find out if it's working right now, because if it is,
have you messed with it, Ken?
Let's see here.
Hey Ken, do you use a VPN?
Sometimes. Why?
Well, no, because I don't use one, and I'm seeing it a lot more, and I'm just thinking about, is there really a beneficial use to using a VPN?
it all depends on what you're doing. It depends on how anonymous you need your data to be. So if you're not declaring certain things, then you can use a VPN. If you have a lot of information, say you have, you know, all the accounts for your life savings and everything on a laptop, I would definitely use a VPN. Actually, I wouldn't even use that. I wouldn't even connect that laptop to the internet.
All right,
But
let's try this one more time. All right, so this is the Chat GPT. I'm just going to ask it to do something crazy. Let's
ask it about young drivers of Canada.
Well, no, let's just do a poem. Let's write a poem about learning to drive. All right, and it's doing its little thing. It's pumping along.
There once was an instructor from Nantucket.
All right. Oh, here we go. It is writing a poem. It's coming out.
Oh my God.
I will read it. I will read it to us, to all of you.
Oh?
Learning to drive, a thrilling ride, nervous at first, but feeling alive. The car is a beast with so much to learn, but with each lesson, my confidence grows. The pedals at my feet, the steering wheel in hand, I take control and hit the road. The open highway stretches out before me as I shift gears and find my groove. It's a whole new world with endless possibility as I learn to navigate the twists and turns. The freedom of independence, a heady rush as I master the art of driving. No longer a passenger, but the driver of my own fate. I am in control and the world is mine to explore. Learning to drive, a rite of passage, as a skill I will carry with me always. There we go. A poem.
Wow.
Just written by an AI.
Where was this with these theses that I had to write like 25 years ago?
I know.
That was Cole's notes. That was Cole's notes.
Yeah, that was Cole's notes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, and you can ask it pretty much anything. And it can be creative and it can come up with some interesting stuff.
That's really spooky.
And this is just the first iteration of this version. So it's only going to get better as it goes along. So
this is the type of stuff that makes us stupid.
I know, because I mean, I look at it this way. You could have it write you an essay if you were a student and you just take the essay in. You probably would go into, and kind of like Chris was saying last week, go in and maybe make a couple little mistakes in it so it looks like it's done by a human, but you know, it's pretty cool. But yeah, this is what wasn't working last week for Chris when he was trying to show it. But you can give it.
Ask it if it can create you a Ethereum blockchain contract.
Okay.
That's a lot, right? So let's see what it says.
Do you have to always put it in the form of a question?
Not really. But, you know, being human, I kind of think that way. Well, let's see what it says. Sure, here's a simple Ethereum blockchain contract that allows
Holy
you to
shite.
Okay,
what the hell?
Bam! Look at that.
Bam.
That there is the code for the Canadian stable dollar.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's explaining what the functions do and everything underneath of it.
Wow.
You pay a
Holy
good
shite.
money to have somebody actually write that, and here you go. AI is doing it for free. If you could ask it the specific questions step by step, you could probably get a whole contract.
Yeah, you probably could.
Bet you could.
You probably could. Anyway.
Damn. I just thought we should ask it that because that's one of the hardest things to code is blockchain.
Oh, I know.
Wow.
And look at that. It was like, here's the easiest way to do it.
And just think of the time. Just think of the time it's going to save you.
That is crazy, oh daddy-o.
Because that was the thing last night when I was looking at all the TELUS history. I'm like, oh, man, I got to purse through this and come up with some stuff. It probably would have taken me 20 minutes. And I just asked, you know, the chat. And then 5 seconds later, I read it and I changed a couple little words. And it was like, perfect. So, yeah, time saver.
Hey, Ken, why don't you tell the 13 people are here about that new TV thing we found? You found the platform.
Pluto TV. It's like Tubi TV. It has commercials in it, but you can get a lot of old TV series on it, such as The Love Boat, 21 Jump Street, Dallas, and there's some black.
It's only 100 channels, right? It's like 100 channels, right?
Something like that. It's new, so they don't have it on there. Like I think they had 20 movies altogether.
Oh, did they? Yeah, I was just looking at it before. I actually downloaded it to my phone, and I thought, okay, this is cool. You know,
kills time. Waiting in the doctor's office, just put on an episode of Old Yeller or something, you know.
There you go.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Titanic. We know what happens.
They all float down there, Timmy.
Well, this has been good. This has been good. I think I've covered all bases. Good chat on stuff. You got anything to add? Subtract?
Add, subtract, divide, multiply.
Multiply. Nothing. Ken's thinking. Calculating.
Nothing I can think of. Oh, I fell down the stairs and screwed up my foot. That was interesting.
At home?
Yeah.
Was a gummy bear involved?
No. This was 6 a.m. Okay. I got an alarm clock that's got a dual alarm clock on it. Plus, I have my cell phone. So I got those three things going off, waking me up. I've got the dog at the bedroom door whining to go out. So I'm half asleep, throw on the old house coat, get down here to the stairs. And of course, the husky's shedding, right? So she shed a little bit of fur right at the top of the stairs. And don't I hit that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I thought I was going to bust the ligaments in my knee, but no, it turned out I screwed up my foot. The bottom of my foot, where the ball of your foot is, it's all swollen and it's starting to bruise around to the big toe.
Oh, because you went to like,
yeah.
Hopefully, give it a couple of days and it'll be fine.
Well, it's been 2 days. I'm going to go to work tomorrow. I'm just going to walk on my heel and take my time. So that's the big, exciting news of my life.
Very cool.
Sober. See, it can happen to you sober. So there you go.
There you go. There you go. So you'll be on probably on the weekend with your streams?
Friday. I should be on. Saturday, I'm not sure. We'll see.
And Candace, you have, well, run down your regime.
Okay. Well, tomorrow we got, of course, a deep dive on TELUS. So that'll be kind of cool. What else do I have? Oh, right. I got the stocking stuffers. That's on the go right now. So I'm counting down through shorts. So check out the shorts. The 12 stocking stuffers that the community has chosen. They voted on them. And we're counting down from least popular to most popular. And today was number 11. So it ends on the 24th. 24th, yeah, is the first, is number 1. So, yeah, that's kind of exciting. And I'm definitely going to have something out this weekend. And we got a live stream coming. And I'm also going to be guesting on somebody else's live stream on the 20th. I can't remember the name of the podcast that I'm going to be on. It's a dividend focused podcast, but
you're not hooking up with dividend Dave, are you?
That's who it is. That's who reached out and said, "Can you do it?"
That's
Why?
Dave. That's Dave from our crew.
Oh, well then, yeah.
You remember Dave, who was on my stream and he kind of had a couple of too many beers and he fell asleep sitting up?
Oh,
that's
that
dividend Dave?
Then that's who I'm doing the podcast with. For
hey, you know, there you go.
All I know is he reached out to me on Twitter and said, "Can you do it?" And I was just like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Great.
I keep trying to jump to his streams. Every time I look at my phone, he ended like 5 minutes ago. I'm like, son of a gun. I keep trying.
Yep, but that's like I said.
That'll be
you know who's not in the house tonight is Jordan.
What about Jordan?
Jordan's not in the house.
Oh,
odd. Unless there's
it is odd. What did you
football
say?
or NASCAR or something tonight, or okay, bye, Tim.
yeah.
Okay, let's
still
turn
live, everybody. We'll keep this going. Will keep this going till Tim gets back.
We will turn this into the Dirty Limerick channel now.
Yeah.
Okay.
6 hours later, we're still here waiting for Tim to come back to end the stream.
Oh,
here he is.
Candace, I can't believe you said that, Dirty Limerick. Jeez. Hey, Tim, what's up?
Not much. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I have no
where you
idea.
dropped off and it was live, we were like, we can't leave now. Nobody can close the show.
I don't know
the
where
longest
Jordan is.
stream going.
Yeah, it would have been like it would have been normal for Ken.
If we all close out, it shuts down 20 minutes later.
But then what do they see in that 20 minutes?
I tried that before.
That'd be the thing. It's just like, people are sitting there waiting for us all to come back because the stream is still going.
I have no idea where Jordan is tonight. I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. I just he's normally around.
Yeah. Yeah. Every so often he disappears, but
he does.
What can we do?
Everybody have a good, safe weekend. Be careful out there driving if you're within the reaches of the system that's coming through. And we shall see.
Drive safe if you're outside of the system too. Just put that out there.
Right.
It doesn't hurt to wear a hockey helmet either while you're driving. Just saying.
I wear a goalie mask.
That too.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Is that considered a face-off when you take it off?
Just get an airbag.
I just want to get everybody just to start wearing hockey helmets and then see it on the news. We are seeing these weird, just like how I see these weird people.
Oh man, that would be classic,
right? They're not wearing coats. They've got like this big blanket wrapped around them, and they're walking and doing their shopping and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's not a shawl. That's a goddamn comforter. What the hell are they doing? And have you guys seen anybody like that walking around yet?
No,
what?
I'm in my studio all the time. I have no windows.
I've seen it in Grand Bend. I've seen it in Petrolia. I've seen it here in Sarnia. I've seen it out in Brights Grove. It's like some new trend that you don't put your winter coat on. You just put your comforter on. You wrap yourself in your comforter and go.
Yeah. I've seen that.
That's
no, but you gave me a good idea that I got to have someone in the car, and I'm going to go downtown Toronto or downtown Hamilton, and I'm going to drive with my hockey helmet on.
You got to black out one of your teeth too and smile.
No. I've got to have a full cage and everything, and then I'm going to wear my mask underneath it.
Now that cage would block your peripheral vision, Tim. You should know as a driving instructor that's not a great idea.
No, the cage comes around.
Oh, you sure? What with the metal bars thingies?
Oh, they're thin enough. They won't be distracted.
Oh, fine. I was just trying to.
No. See, I've tried it.
And then roll down your window as you're driving. Yell, pick up a hoser.
Big Mac. Where's my Big Mac?
Holy banana bread.
Sucks to be the people that left early on this one.
Oh, yeah. They're going to go, that guy looks familiar. Yeah.
The only problem with wearing your hockey gear in the car is that if you hit the brakes too hard, you cut them in half.
Well, you're not supposed to wear your skates. Although I know some people that would disregard that and do it.
And for those of you who ski, for God's sake, do not drive with your ski boots on. Jesus. That is the stupidest thing you can do.
Lock them to your pedal.
Huh?
Lock your boots to the pedals.
No, it's because they're so smooth, and then they get the wet on it, and they slip right off the pedals. And because they've got that channel that locks into to the bindings, it gets stuck between the accelerator and the brake.
Uh-oh.
Oh, shit. Yeah, don't do that, guys.
Also, if you're a snowshoer, take off your snowshoes before you drive.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, say goodnight, Gracie.
Oh.